Onto this developing story now. The Independent Electoral Commission is gearing up to get eligible voters to register for the 2024 national and provincial elections. The Commission still needs, however, to find out whether elections will take place as scheduled. And, of course, that's because Parliament is still working on amendments to the electoral bill. Parliament has failed to meet the deadlines that have been set. So let's unpack where we are at now and bring in the IEC's Chairperson Mosotho Moepya joins us via our video link this morning. Great to see you, Mr. Moepya. Thanks for coming on to the program. That's the big question as we build up to 2024 and as we have a discussion on the IEC's preparedness. How much about Parliament's work around the amendments to the Electoral Act has an impact on your work?
Well, Michelle, we have indicated that we would ideally want that legislation, passed early. We have been part of the, process. We have followed part of that process extensively and have participated in it. We are hoping that at the end of this month, that will be signed into law. But in the meantime, as we have said, and we are doing now, we have said that we will go on develop our work program for the elections on the understanding of the bill as it has been approved by the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs last week.
So did you say the end of this month or next month?
The end of this month.
So that's in a few days' time?
It's in a few days' time, indeed.
All right. So if that does happen, if it is signed by the end of this month, it, of course, means that the issue around independent candidates will have been resolved, and that will have to, of course, play a big part in your own preparations. How does that then complicate things for the IEC?
Well, it does not complicate it. In fact, it clarifies. We have always understood since the 20th of June, since the 11th of June 2020, that independent candidates must participate in the 2024 national and provincial elections. And that's what we have been gearing ourselves for. Right. What has always been in doubt was how they are going to participate, what are the legislative arrangements that are going to be made that we need to take into account. For example, in developing our systems, we have never had independent candidates in the results process, and so we now need to incorporate them. Those are some of the changes we needed to incorporate, but they must be defined in law, and then we have to code the law into our programs.
Right. So it's not something that we're waking up this morning and starting with. This has been in the works for the IEC insofar as preparations are concerned.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So let's talk about your focus insofar as targeting new voters is concerned. How have we fared in previous elections, and what will be your strategy for 2024?
Well, as you will notice, we have started quite early to register young voters. In the past, of course, we have created opportunities for them to be registered, but on this occasion, we've really taken the effort to almost 15 months into that election to put arrangements into place for them to begin to be registered. And we are doing this for the next 2 weeks to actually see whether the young people have challenges and what those challenges would be, whether there are some things we need to customize and fine-tune for them to participate. And of course, to test the rigor of the processes we have put into place. As you would know, elections are not something you practice every day. They come once and you've got to get them right. And this creates an opportunity for us and the voters to begin to be engaged.
Mr. Moepya, do you have those numbers? I'm sure you do at your fingertips. Just the number of young and new voters that we're heading into these elections with for 2024.
Well, we are informed from the Stats SA figures that we may in fact be having up to 14 million young people between the ages of 15 and 29. You will recall that when you are 16, you may be registered, but you will vote when you turn 18 automatically.
Right.
And so these are people we want to enlist on the voters' roll. We are clear that we need to create these opportunities for them. We want to encourage them and motivate them to register, but that's a choice they need to make. Whilst we engage, of course, we are doing civic and voter education so that they know that, in fact, their cross is their voice. You know, their vote will give them a voice at the end of the day.
Yeah, some figures telling us that upwards of 50% of our eligible voters for 2024 are these young people.
Yes, indeed. We are a young country, and we need to look after the young people. That's why we began early at the Electoral Commission. We don't want to have a situation where right at the end, we now have a stampede on the system. People are trying to get onto it all at once. We want to create these opportunities, and we have begun now. We are going to do it consistently until registration closes. So
we've talked about the strategy insofar as luring young people to get onto the voters' roll. Of course, there's also your strategy around older, loyal voters, those of us who have been voting in elections for some time now.
Yes.
How does the strategy differ?
Some of you, Michelle, I'm sure you're also going to be able to just check your details on the system, because you can. You can access the system to check your details. If you want to amend your address, maybe you have moved since you were last registered, you can do so. But you can, everyone, this is open to everyone. It has no age restriction, but we know from research and from, engagements with young people that this is a platform they prefer the most.
So Mr. Moepya, insofar as the preparations for the IEC is concerned, how difficult does it become for you if the dates for elections are not confirmed?
Well, very good question, Michelle. Let me tell you, for us, there is a degree of confirmation. The law is clear. The Constitution says any election must be held within 90 days of the expiry of the term. The current term is going to expire on the 21st of May next year. So from the 22nd of May to around the 14th of August, within that period, an election must certainly be held.
Right.
So we are working in that period. As to the exact date, that's neither here nor there. But the 90-day period, within that period, we know for sure an election will be held.
And we talked a lot about the amendments to the electoral bill. You're saying that you're looking to the end of this month for Parliament to sign that bill into law. Insofar as the addition of independent candidates is concerned, and you alluded to this earlier, Mr. Moepya, how does that impact your counting once the election has taken place and that counting process? Does it mean it'll be extended, it'll be lengthier than usual?
Well, you raise a very exciting thing for me. We don't know how many candidates are going to participate, but we do, in fact, have to prepare ourselves for probably longer ballots and therefore, increased staff potentially, and maybe, just maybe, an elongated counting process. But again, the law is clear. We have to declare results within 7 days of an election being held. That we will maintain under either of the circumstances.
You've painted a very rosy picture of your own preparations for the elections, Mr. Moepya, which is your job, so you've done it very well this morning. But what are the challenges that you do foresee?
Well, there are many challenges that we have to deal with. If the situation persists, and some people are saying, the challenges with power are challenges that may persist for a while, though there are initiatives. We don't know. we have to prepare for that. That's number one. Number two is that in these elections, it is possible that we will still be filling ward vacancies. In other words, local government ward vacancies may still, be calling upon us to conduct by-elections. And so we may be conducting a general election on the one hand, but preparing that in the midst of by-elections that must take place. And that, to voters, may be a difficult call. It may be a difficult call for ourselves. Mm-hmm. But lastly, there are a number of changes to the legislation that have been made. We need to engage, to educate. We need partners in civil society, in the media, that will communicate all of these changes. And we will ourselves be engaged in communicating those, amendments to the law and the requirements for people to contest and parties to contest in these elections. Those are three broad challenges that we face. For the rest of it, we have to, go on. We have to fight moving forward and deal with the situation as best as we can.
Mosotho Moepya, let me thank you for your time on the AM report this morning. The IEC Chairperson giving us a sense of its preparedness ahead of the elections for 2024.